Welcome back, story lovers. Have you ever thought that only the biggest and strongest can be true leaders? Or that the most important jobs are always the biggest ones? Well, get ready for a tale from the lively Willow Woods that might just change your mind. In these woods, buzzing with life, lived a big, shiny rhinoceros beetle named Barnaby. Barnaby was a sight to behold. He had the biggest, most impressive horn and the loudest, booming voice in the entire insect community. And in his mind, that made him the only one fit to lead. Now, Barnaby wasn't mean-spirited, not at all. But oh, was he bossy? He truly believed that only the big, strong beetles like himself could do the really important work everyone else. Well, he thought they were mostly just in the way. You'd often hear him booming across the forest floor. Out of the way, little ants, make room for real work. Or stop wiggling, worm. This is a job for the strong. Despite his bossy nature, Barnaby's best friend was a tiny, hard-working ant named Pippa. Pippa was a complete opposite of Barnaby in size, but she was a powerhouse in her own way. She was incredibly organized, a master of logistics, and could impressively carry things twice her own size. She was small but mighty, and her quiet determination was a force of nature. One day, disaster struck Willow Woods. A terrible storm raged through the night, and the powerful winds and lashing rain washed away the main bridge that connected the east and west sides of the woods. The rushing creek was now an impassable obstacle. The entire insect community knew they had to come together to build a new, stronger bridge. This was a massive undertaking, which they quickly named the Big Bridge Build. As you can imagine, Barnaby immediately took charge. He didn't ask, he just announced it. "All right, everyone, I'll be leading this project." He boomed. He started assigning jobs, but his method was simple. He gave all the biggest, heaviest tasks to himself and the other strong beetles. He saw the project as a series of giant feats of strength. "We need massive logs to span this creek, and only I can move them." Barnaby roared, proudly flexing his enormous horn. He selected the largest, most tangled root he could find, convinced that moving it into place was the single most important part of the entire build. So, Barnaby spent the whole morning struggling with this one colossal root. He pushed, he strained, he grunted and groaned. But the root, half buried in the thick mud, wouldn't budge more than a few inches. He was so focused on his single, massive task that he ended up getting himself completely stuck in the mud, his powerful legs spinning uselessly. "Hurry up, Barnaby! The creek is rising!" shouted the other beetles from the bank, growing more anxious by the minute. They could see the water level creeping higher, threatening to flood their work area. Meanwhile, Pippa the Ant was busy with what Barnaby called the small stuff. She wasn't trying to move giant logs. Instead, she was meticulously organizing the construction of the bridge's foundation. She directed her team to gather countless tiny, crisscrossing twigs, weaving them together to create a flexible, yet strong, base layer. This design would allow the bridge to have a little give without breaking. Then, she had a crew carry soft moss to fill in all the small gaps, a brilliant move that would make the foundation waterproof. She even engineered tiny drainage trails for water droplets to run off, a small detail that would prevent the wood from rotting over time. She understood that a strong bridge wasn't just about big pieces, but about how all the pieces, big and small, worked together. Finally, with a mighty heave, Barnaby freed himself from the mud. He was covered from horn to toe in sticky brown muck, and his frustration was boiling over. He stomped over to where Pippa and her aunt crew were working, his heavy footsteps shaking the ground. "Pippa!" he grumbled, his voice dripping with irritation. "Why are you wasting your time with those tiny twigs and useless moss? That's not important work. Moving the giant route is the only thing that matters." Pippa paused her work, carefully pushing a perfectly sized pebble into place to shore up a weak spot. She looked up at the towering, mud-caked beetle and said calmly, "Barnaby, your strength is amazing. You can move the biggest log in the forest. But if you don't use these small twigs to tie the foundation together, the weight of that log will make the whole thing collapse. And if we don't use this moss to waterproof the base, the constant dampness from the creek will destroy it from below." Barnaby scoffed, waving a leg dismissively. "Nonsense. Big strength makes a strong bridge, not little bits of moss." He was convinced she was wasting precious time. So, he stomped off to try his luck with another giant root. This time, he managed to drag it all the way to the edge of the creek. But just as Pippa had warned, the ground beneath it was soft and unstable. Because the foundation wasn't waterproofed and reinforced, the immense weight of the roots simply caused it to sink deep into the mud with a sad, squelching sound. The bridge was going nowhere, and the creek was getting dangerously high. The project was a failure. Seeing the chaos and frustration, Chief Elder Grasshopper, the wise old leader of the community, decided it was time to step in. He hopped over to the dejected Barnaby. "Barnaby," he said in his gentle, respected voice, "your strength is impressive, there is no doubt. But a bridge is more than just big logs. It needs every part, every piece, to do its job." He then pointed a long leg towards the small section that Pippa and her aunt crew had already completed. It was a masterpiece of miniature engineering, organized, and perfectly stable. It was already holding the weight of several small stones without any sign of sinking or strain. "We need the power of big pushes," Barnaby the Elder continued. "Your strength is a vital asset. But we also need the power of small details. One is not more important than the other. They depend on each other." For the first time that day, Barnaby stopped ordering and started watching. Really watching, he saw how Pippa directed a team, how every tiny piece of mud, every carefully placed twig, and every strand of moss contributed to the overall strength of the structure. It was like a beautiful, complicated puzzle, and he had only been trying to jam in the biggest piece without looking at the others. He felt a wave of humility wash over him. His way wasn't working. Her way was humbled. Barnaby walked over to Pippa. His loud, booming voice was now much softer. "Pippa," he admitted, looking at the tiny ant with newfound respect, "I was wrong. I thought only the big jobs mattered. I've made a mess of things. What should I do now?" Pippa, ever practical, didn't gloat or say, "I told you so." She simply looked at the problem and found the solution. "We still need your strength for the big root," she instructed calmly, pointing towards the half-sunken log. "But we need to change how we use it. We need you to push the roots slowly and steadily, just a little at a time, while my team quickly stabilizes the ground right where you're pushing." Barnaby nodded, understanding completely. It wasn't about raw power. It was about controlled, focused power. He positioned himself behind the massive root and, on Pippa's signal, began to push with his immense strength. But this chimney, he did it precisely where Pippa directed. As he pushed, Pippa and her crew worked furiously around him, reinforcing the small, critical areas, packing mud and twigs under the log to create a solid path. Together, it was like a perfectly choreographed dance. The big, raw strength of Barnaby and the organized, detailed work of Pippa and the ants. The giant roots slid slowly but surely into place, forming the strong, central beam of the new bridge. With the main beam secured on a solid foundation, the rest of the bridge came together quickly. The other insects, inspired by this new spirit of cooperation, fell into place, and soon the bridge was finished. And it wasn't just finished. It was perfectly strong, a testament to their combined efforts. That morning, Barnaby learned a very important lesson. He realized that having the loudest voice doesn't automatically make you the best leader, and tackling the biggest job isn't always the most important one. True success comes from understanding and valuing the contribution of every single member of the team. He walked over to Pippa, who was doing a final inspection of the moss seams. "Thank you, Pippa," he said, giving the small ant a respectful nod of his great horn. "You showed me that the strongest thing in these woods is onto big beetle or a giant log. It's when big strength and small details work together." From that day forward, Barnaby was a changed beetle. He never bossed the smaller insects again. He still used his incredible strength to help, but now he always asked, "Where am I needed most?" He learned that every role, no matter how big or how tiny, holds an essential and valuable part of the big picture. Thanks for joining us for this story from Willow Woods. If you enjoyed learning about Barnaby and Pippa, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tailies. See you next time.